Hello everyone and welcome yet another live coding and chill. I'm your host Johnny. Delighted to be here. Today we'll be building a brand new puzzle game based on an instant classic, the New York Times puzzle of connections. If you haven't played that one, have a go. We'll play it live today. The idea is that you link a few words together. There are 4 times 4 words in a grid, and you need to find the 4 groups they belong in. It's gonna be fun. We're gonna see how we do today. I haven't tried today's puzzle. My day usually starts with coffee, then breakfast while playing Wordle and connections now. And I've really been enjoying it. It's quite fun that we keep creating these new games for us to try. Like we have the classic crossword and stuff. But Wordle a few years ago, connections now, I think these are new instant classics. And we'll try to rebuild this with SvelteKit and therefore tackle some CSS fundamentals with Tailwind and without Tailwind, some full stack fundamentals, submitting forms, validating results, storing some state, maybe in cookies, and then extend the functionality that connections has by allowing users to create their own connections. And in these streams, we usually show things that are real apps, and this is a real app for sure, but I mean more like a marketing page or portfolio page or a dashboard with stats, analytics, a SaaS product, that sort of thing. We haven't shown a puzzle game for a little while, but that's also a real thing because it's something that you can maybe make a bit faster and then link to your friends and say, try this game that I've built and it's deployed live and anywhere in the world you're at. You send the WhatsApp link, your friend is there, they're clicking, and it's gonna be cool. So Austin in the chat, hello, you didn't get today's connections. Spoiler alert, I'm not a good connection player. So expectations extremely low. I'm better at Wordle than I am at connections. I guess even though I lived in New York for a little bit, I'm not a New Yorker. I'm not a native English speaker even. So some of the trickiest ones by Wina, they can be brutal to to a non-native New Yorker. Anyway, we'll see how we'll do later today. Let's see. So yeah, a puzzle game, build one, link it to your friends, and you'll get this excitement of real web development. The reason that I'm into games and web development and all of that. Other people getting to experience your creation and having their fun. It's fun to have your own portfolio or marketing or blog or build an e-commerce site and all of those things, but those can take a while. So that's a little game, like low commitment. Click this link, click around, tell me what you want, ask your friend, and you'll get a real jolt, a real excitement to keep going in web development, I promise. So that's what we'll do today. And I guess we'll jump into actually playing connections to see how we do. All right. So interestingly enough, in New York Times, you have this splash page that also upsells you to subscribe to New York Times. I don't think they have historical connections, which we'll also do. But they definitely do not have the functionality to create your own connections, which is where we'll have them beat. And right, let's see what they have for us today. So here's the grid. It also got me straight into here. I don't know if that's by design or not, so I didn't see the instruction of create groups of 4. And we have C, smile, egg, corn, cheese, chump, pipe, sap, drain, knuckles, loose, duct, schmaltz, right? Climate, sewer, and window. Yeah, this may be a tricky one. So the idea is I can select 4 and then I can submit my guess, and if it's a correct group, then I strike that out, I group them together, and then I have to move on to the other groups. And I have 4 mistakes to make. So if you are one away, you get a little message that tells you that you have 3 out of 4 correct, and then you can try to hunt for the 4th one, which is quite fun. Unlike Wordle, it doesn't keep a streak or anything like that, because I think people would come after Wina there because some of them are diabolical. But we'll see, maybe we'll have that one too. And the idea is that there are 4 groups from most straightforward to most tricky. So let's see. What's the connection there? Chump. Will we be CSS chumps today or chumps? We'll see. Duct, sewer, like things you can get into, drain. Yeah, that seems like we're onto something. Pipe, like things that get you like below ground somewhere kind of disgusting. Not a window, that gets you somewhere nice. So I think that could be one. A friend of mine who is actually good at words in this says that she only commits to a group if she knows what the second one is. So I may try to take her advice and pretend I'm cleverer than I am and see. So we have smile, egg, corn, it's like breakfast things. Cheese could be breakfast things. But then what would the fourth one be? Some sap. Smile. Hello, son. How are you doing? Cognitive ability test that you failed 3 out of 6 stars earlier this week. I'm great at failing tests, that's for sure. Although there are some things that I'm strangely good at, like the useless things you don't find in real life. Sometimes I'm good at those in video games. But let's see. So with your eggs and breakfast, egg and corn you can have, and cheese. Can I have something else? Schmaltz, Knuckles, like the Sonic characters. I can't find another one. Knuckles tries to save the climate and pets along with Sonic. Probably not. Thump chains, loose chains, climate chains. So that feels like a thing. Thump, loose, climate, and small sewer chains, duct chains, pipe chains, drain chains. So thump, loose, climate. That feels like it could be blank chains, but seed chains? Nah. Schmaltz. What could schmaltz be? What else could we find here? Just for making the stream interesting and get into the code, I think I'll try to go down the drain with this one. Oh, success. Conduits for water removal, fellas. Drain, duct, pipe, sewer. Alright, so this was, in theory, the most straightforward one, so well done. We got the easy one after debating for a while. And I'm thinking that there is a thump, loose, climate chains connection. But cheese chains, corn chains, sap chains, I don't know. Schmaltz, what's schmaltz? And we also have the egg, corn, cheese as like ingredients to some food that I don't eat. But what could it be? You can also smile. You can make a smile with like bacon. It could be something weird like that. And schmaltz, I have no idea what schmaltz would be. Is it like a breakfast aperitif type of thing? Probably not. And knuckles, I'm thinking of like these knuckles for sure. But it could be something else. Crack. Ah, you can crack eggs, knuckles, crack a smile, and crack a window. I think that could be it. So crack a smile in a window, knuckles, and an egg. So is this deranged enough for Wina? Let's see. Yes, it is. And that was the, not the trickiest one, second trickiest one. All right. Oof. Now it's getting to the point where I may actually do this. So the stakes are even higher. The pressure is on. Schmaltz is food, apparently. Someone says. Who knows? I know we did say thump chains, climate chains. So what else could be in the chains group? Seed chains? That's not a real thing. Corn chains, cheese chains, sap chains, schmaltz chains. I haven't heard of those. Cheese, corn, sap, and schmaltz. This may be one of those where it's like, you know, if I mispronounce this word and remove one letter, then you get the group. Seed chains, like the tides chains. I think I want to go with this one, but we need to move on with our lives. Oh, nailed it. All right, so we didn't get to see the fail UI because we're awesome. So uncharacteristically for me, I did manage to make no mistakes. So the chains group was loose seed chains. I was right. Yeah, of course. I guessed this. Seed chains was the group. All right. Controversially, seed chains is the thing people say. And food products associated with sentimentality is cheese because I'm cheesy, corn because I'm corny, sap because I'm not sappy, I guess, and schmaltz, the famously sentimental food schmaltz. So I think that's one of those where, you know, New Yorkers would be laughing now, like, oh yeah, of course. I'm doing crosswords here. All right, so this is connections. Hope you had fun. We'll try to build this, and yeah, nailed it. Nailed it. The fun thing is, which we'll probably use CSS variables for this, we'll create this group component, I guess, that groups the four things, the group together, and has a different background color. It's not that tricky, I guess. We'll see how it goes. Like the background color you can see. And something that I don't particularly like when I play on my phone as well is that it doesn't show the colors in an easy way without an extra click. So when I get a group, I like seeing this was the easiest group or this was the hardest group, because if I got a harder one and the easiest one still remains, it can get me on the mindset that, all right, there must be an easy one that I'm missing here. Like drain, duct, pipe, and sewer. And not like Champ, Climate, Loose, Sea. Cool. So again, that was the game. Interestingly, we'll also do dark mode, which New York Times doesn't have. And as always, we could like inspect like the DOM and see how they do it for the UI. And you'll see that they do have a field set for this, but I think they're mostly doing JavaScript. Like they're cheating with JavaScript here. So they aren't doing checkbox inputs, which we will be doing. Let's double check here. If we open here with incognito mode, what do I want to check? Oh, in the UI they have the label even. No, that's a different thing. What did I open here to check? Nothing really. How it looks when I click it. I had a point here. Just these aren't real inputs, I guess. Have a label. Ah, they are. All right, so they are real inputs. Great, they're doing well. And they are in a real form. That's what we'll do as well. They are real inputs. Amazing. Cool. And the whole form has this, has the header, and then a field set that has like the grid thingy. Interestingly enough, I have a link to Adam Sargal's video, which may have been inspiration for this. I don't know, to have like a tag list or a pick list, how you'd want to call it. And they're using a custom library for data flipping for the flip animation when the groups get when the items of the group get grouped together. But we'll figure them out as we go. Right, so anything else? I think I had another point to highlight here for what they're doing, but it will arrive to us. Also, I'm trying again to have this idle game going at the bottom to have some chill music, and also something for you to see when I'm thinking and reading docs. Let me know if it's fun or if it's annoying to you. When you see people being productive, especially robot, you feel more productive, is what I always say. Anyway, time for maybe going to app breakdown. Should have had this. So what we have already is the question. What we have already running here on localhost, this is not deployed, but we have this connections cloud that has light and dark mode. This is the dark mode. And you can press login to log in with various different ways that we make it to get to today. You'll need to have an account to create your own connections, for example, or to persist your stats. And we have like terms of service and boilerplate links. All of those we have because I based this on the two previous projects that we've been making, Culture Stock and the test project. Culture Stock uses a Superbase database and Superbase auth. CSS is the one that uses Turso as a database, Drizzle as a driver for the database, and Lucia for authentication. So I kind of mix those two together to arrive to what we have today, which is going to be an app that talks to an SQLite database deployed via Turso, and we're using the Drizzle ORM to talk to that database, and we'll use it to persist the connections that the puzzles that people need to solve, and that sort of thing. Right, so I think we should dive into, we are also using SAT-CN components for this SAT-CN, or Shadoken, as I like to call it, has been becoming increasingly popular. Yesterday's Vercel SIP conference highlighted, opened, so in V0, their AI component builder that you specify, oh, I want this form for my conference talk. And then it spits out some React UI for you that is using SAT-CN components and looks really, really cool, demos really well. We're also using SAT-CN, but we'll go into HTML fundamentals as well. So don't worry too much about it if you don't want to use SAT-CN. Right, so hopefully you can hear me well, and we can move on to implementing. So the real connections has a splash space, and then you go into the game page. So as a reminder, we've just seen, I don't need to remind it. And here where I say to do play, I need to get us to the play page. And with SvelteKit, you just do that with a simple href, an anchor tag with an href to wherever you want the route to be. And we can have that say play. And you click it, and then you go to this route that we don't have yet, but we will have in the future. That's what we'll be building today. And as I said, we're using SAT-CN here. So if you're using Tailwind, then you can do like things like DG, purple, like whatever, and then give it your own padding and make it as rounded as you want, which in their own UI. Do we have to excel rounded? Full rounded. You can customize your button as you want it. The New York Times have like super rounded buttons, which is maybe what you'll want to recreate. You can also do styles the SvelteKit way by hitting the anchor tag or giving like a class here and specifying here what you want to do. We won't be doing either. What we will be doing is the SAT-CN way, and what they've decided to do is what you should be doing in your apps anyway, even if you don't use SAT-CN, is to have a component that you use, and then if you decide that you want more rounded corners or less, or different hover styles or ink styles or whatever else, then you just go to this one component and automatically everything in your app that uses that component gets updated. So you update in one place and you're good to go. So what we will do is use the button again. This is a point of controversy as well. Some people want to have a separate link component and a separate button component because this thing looks like a button, but it's not a button. It's not an HTML button. It's going to be a link, an anchor tag, because it's going to look and see that it gets the href prop. Anyway, that's by the by. Just by doing it, just by turning it into a button, it gets the default primary button UI. Looks like this, but because it has the href it still has the anchor tag that gets us to the slash play route that we haven't created yet. As we know, to create a route in SvelteKit, we need to reflect the path that users will need to put in their bar here in the source routes directory. So the moment we create a source routes play directory plus space.svelte, then that will resolve and hello from play route. This will magically update here and it's all going well. My wife is talking in the separate room. This rarely happens. I don't know why she sounds has a soft voice usually, but everything sounds correct. Anyway, now that the route exists, we also get the native transitions API working. So we get this nice slide thing that also works for back and forth animation. We've set that up. We've shown how this is set up in previous episodes. And in the actual play route, if I go back here again, so you get these connections and the date, you get the date again, and who is the author of these connections game, and then you actually get the game UI, which is supposed to look like this, suppose. Which just says create groups of 4, and that's it. So we can kind of safely say the same thing, create groups of 4. We'll put it in a different element eventually, but just so we're able to see. Let's put everything in a main HTML tag and give it the same classes we had in our core route. But just for now, let's make the text bigger. Text to Excel is another thing. It's kind of weird. Anyway, we'll figure that out. I guess let's put it in another thingy. It's not going to be a div. Here. That's kind of interesting. I don't know why this is not working for me, this helper flags. Like text Excel works, LZ works, 4XL doesn't work, 3XL works. Curious. But we're not here to debug Tailwind, I guess, or whatever I've got going on. Maybe restarting the server usually helps, actually. Yeah, all right. So I think I had never used these classes before, and sometimes the Tailwind transpiler, the thing that scans if you're using Tailwind classes and only creates CSS according to the ones you're actually using, sometimes flips out with no warning, and that's fine. This wasn't, this class that I had never used before wasn't being applied. Anyway, that's by the by. What we're claiming we will be doing now is create a game controller that spits out a hard-coded grid. So instead of putting in the words here and trying to grid them up, we'll have the backend tell the frontend what the words should be, and in fact what the the groups should be. Maybe we'll say this, like I don't like that you can cheat in the inspector and see what the groups actually are. But again, if people are determined to cheat, they can just cheat. So maybe it's not that big a deal. The thing that we want is to have a sibling plus page of server.ts in our play directory. We're going to say that this is the play page. And here we can have like the current date in the title if we want. It's going to be play today's connections puzzle. We can say whether you're solving it or you've already solved it according to dynamic data. But what I'm imagining here is that anything we return in this load method is going to be available in the UI. So if we have like an array of like words, like, come on, Copilot, you can do it. Great. And we return them in the UI here, just as words. Then we can go to the front end and open up a script tag, script tag even, and from the props get data. This is Svelte 5 way to do it. Magically, because SvelteKit is awesome, data is going to be typed according to what the load method is returning and what any other load methods that are running in parallel to the specific page one is returning. So we also get the session for the user here. So we have an array of words, and we could say that just JSON stringify the words that we got here. So you can see we got them. They're overflowing. Okay, immediately, I don't like this. Data words as word, render the word in its own div. All right, so the point is the server can return things for the UI to render. But what we want the server to return is the grid, the thing you get to play for, the thing you need to solve. So we're going to create a game controller, which is a video game concept, I guess. Well, controllers are a software design concept. But the game controller feels like every game has a game controller, which will, for example, figure out whether it needs to create a new game for you if you don't have any cookies. Or maybe retrieve an existing connections game based on the date, whether it's going to retrieve. I'm not sure, actually. Think about it. Something that I should have mentioned is that SvelteKit, the SvelteKit wizard, has an option for you to have a fully fledged or a template, like a demo SvelteKit app, which includes a Wordle clone. So we could actually have a look there. Maybe open a new terminal. And I think I have the Wordle one here. So let's see how does the wizard do it? How does the SvelteKit wizard do it? I think they do have like a game controller. Just game class, which gets the state. If it doesn't have an existing state, then it creates a new Wordle grid for you. But it's the same thing that we'll want to recreate. And just to show that real quickly. So this is the demo app that you get, and it has Svelte, which is Wordle. And apparently every keystroke or click results in a form submission, which stores even what you have here selected. as a cookie, which I think is a bit much. The important thing is that SvelteKit now knows, due to cookies, that you have made already one guess, and you as a user gets the helpful UI to tell you that you got L in the right place, and the other letters shouldn't be used. They don't exist in this app, in this word. So yeah, that's the demo that you make it yourself by running the SvelteKit wizard and choosing the demo app. Try it out, see how they do it. How we'll do it, maybe kind of similar. Let's see. So we want something that is gonna return the grid. I guess the position is like a UI choice. You don't need to know whether something goes in the first row or the second row or the third row or wherever. That doesn't really matter. The user doesn't need to know what the groups are in advance, but you do need to know which groups are already figured out, like the correct or not. So what would we want our game controller to return? Let's create a game controller here. Export class game controller. And no, Copilot thinks we're gonna be building an API or something. Maybe, would we get like a new game? What would we get? What do we do here? When you create it, get nothing. You have a stringified version of the state, I guess. And you can enter results. Not thrilled. This could also be talking to a database, sending stuff to a database, or doing the cookie logic. But why do I need it now? New, you can new it up. New game, latest. Not sure. I will leave this here and come back to what I want again. I don't want an array of words. I don't necessarily want the groups. I think I will have the backend return the order of the words, because we do have the functionality to shuffle them. There should be like a play again mode, because now I can't see it. Let's try again. Connections. So we can shuffle the results, and that could be a UI thing, but you need to persist, I guess, the ones that are already solved. So I'm not sure. I would say that the backend does return an array of words in a specific order. So 16 words should be like this. But what else does it return? Does each word have a value and whether it's part of a specific group? Maybe. Maybe you get just the words in an order. Maybe not. And I imagine that here I would be doing game controller. And then this thing can have the words that we return in the UI. And if the UI needed to group them together, then So maybe the UI is related slightly. If they're all grouped. And I want to know what type of group it is, because we have the straightforward group all the way to the tricky group, which will affect the background color that we get. So we do want some information there. But let's take it one by one. And one by one would be the controller. Let's say the moment you created, it was nothing, and just has get grid. And it returns this array of words. Son says, could it be you have 4 empty arrays that you push each item on a click event? Not sure. There are various ways to do this, but I do want to do a lot of stuff server side. I imagine that these are always there, so no empty arrays, and these are going to be inputs, checkboxes. So they'll always be there, and you'll be submitting some values based on what you've checked. It's going to look ugly in the beginning, but it's going to look better in the end. Step by step, we'll get there. So we have the game controller, say, and let's say that we actually return like a grid. And for now, let's just say that it's like this. As we submit a solution, it may become clear to me what I want the model to be. Maybe it is going to be like 4 arrays, because the grouping functionality may be tricky. But for now, let's just do this. And then, so we're entering these angrily. What did I say will we do now? Render puzzle grid. All right, so let's get there. All right, so now in theory we're getting to the UI, and I know that I'll want to submit a form at the press of a button, which we can put at the end here. And we'll have options for shuffle deselect all and submit select all. Interesting. But let's just do submit now. So there is like the mistakes UI that maybe we'll do, but let's just add a button. So let's import a button here. And render one. This button for us will automatically be a submit button because it's inside the form, and we haven't overridden the type. And they have like a boring. No, it's like their primary color button, so that's nice. Okay, it's just disabled sometimes. It shouldn't be disabled when you have 4 selected. And I guess what remains is to render these in a sort of grid situation. So if this was a grid with template columns, calls for, is this calls for template columns for? Probably not. Let me look up my Tailwind stuff. Grid. template rows. It's grid rows. No, it's grid calls. So grid calls for. All right, so now they're in place. And I'm thinking they're all just inputs. And let's look at the MTN for a checkbox component. How do they do it? Let's just have a div and a label. It's kind of cute. We won't be doing that, but just for now. They have the field set and the legend, so it's not that bad. So each one of them is in a div, and let's say that everything is the word. The word is unique, so it should be fine. And you've selected everything. And you haven't selected anything. And look, we have like native dark mode as well, because we're awesome. Even though I just used a regular checkbox input. So that's kind of neat. Right, so I do think we're gonna use this and say that actually we're in a field set. And that's the thing that is, oh no, sorry. It has a legend of what you should do here. And then we have the grid of inputs, and how big are those? Kind of big, I guess. This is where the field set ends. All right. And I think we can give this field set a name. So this would be the words, I guess. Why not? Guesses, maybe guesses. The user does guesses, does words. I don't know, let me know what you think. And then they select for. We'll have some validation UI with Superforms later. And when they click the button, it should submit the form, but it should be a post form because it's going to mutate the state. It's going to set some cookies for us. Maybe you're going to win. Maybe we're going to get a strike, like make a mistake. So this is going to be a post form. And let's say it's not going to be using the default action because the shuffle button will also be submitting a form action, I think, maybe. Let's make it be the default action for now, it's fine. No, let's name it. So let's make this a named form action. It's the yes. And in order to handle this, then we'll need in the sibling play.server.ts file an actions object. But let's see, what else do I have here in the agenda? If I want to do this, can I send her a div? So can I send her the checkboxes in here? Selecting the guesses. I guess we're not really doing this. We're just rendering the UI. But maybe I should actually do this. So the question is, can I send her these words? Because it has the checkbox, I'm not sure if I actually want to do it. You can make these be dynamic as well. So, can I send her a div is the question. There are many ways to send her a div. Nowadays, it's not as hard as back in my day. But I do like small css.dev. It has some cool examples, and the easiest way to do it is with yet another grid. So if you have a container like this, it's like a grid, and you give its items a place center, then you're good to go. Antonio, you can do it. You can do it. I think that gives it a place center in Tailwind CSS terms. Place content, Johnny. Come on. Looks the same, but imagine like we'll be hiding the input, so we'll just have the word, just like in the UI here. So you can imagine that this has like a background color of they don't do surface here, do they? Anything you want. Rounded, maybe. And do they have a bit of padding? Yeah, they do. So we can say that this has like a gap, small gap. And each one of those has like some padding. And maybe even fields that has some margin to give some space here. There's some mistakes remaining, so maybe I'll give some classes to the form actually. And we know we'll have like a lot of buttons here. Right, but I guess we can give it like the card background here. I guess. So let's do it. Easy card. Guess not. Card, not a real thing. Card. It is a real thing. So basic card should be something. Let's see if it's Tailwind refusing to do it again. Guess not. Foreground. So is the card background just nothing? That's this one. Yeah, two. It's the same as this background. Yeah, so I don't particularly like that. I guess this used to be like something else, like a different color. Maybe not. It's hard to tell. Yeah, maybe you can tell better. Just subtle card. Too subtle for me. There should be like a gray color. What's the secondary looking like? knows? So for this one, like it was like 95, 7. With more saturation. More saturation. So yeah, let's pretend that this is close enough, while still giving us some visual delight and isn't too boring. So we have these things. I guess we want everything to be uppercased. Brilliant. And I think everything like needs padding, right? Yeah, so maybe like slightly bigger screens. Not too bad. We'll see. We're going to be changing these styles soon enough. Submit button looks so small. Ridiculously small. But hey, they're also bold. Font bold. All right, so now let's pick the actual words of the day. Maybe not yet. Maybe not yet. Maybe, so we centered the div, great. Render the puzzle grid, doesn't look too bad. Maybe center these things. All the buttons, we only have one. Good, we'll have like more buttons here, right? And I guess this will be outline buttons. Shuffle and deselect all. So yeah, Satien loves tiny letters, small letters, unbelievably small letters. Don't let that deter you. You can override this and stop using text CM, SM. Just use text LG everywhere, or change your Tailwind defaults, because this is like too small. I guess like small letters feels more professional, like using especially thin fonts as well, like unreadable for many people, but can look cool. Although accessibility is cooler, if you ask me. Am I right? Right. So, how do we submit? Yes, now we've just put inputs in there, so we can select them as much as we want, and even if we click at the word, it's fine. But not if we click outside, so I'll try to resolve this in due course. I guess I just need to put the padding in like the label or something, but we'll solve this in a better way soon. So then we'll do the submit and guess. It's gonna be around there. I use this to quickly add timestamps after the end of the stream, or by the next day I'll have them, which is much easier than having to listen to myself all the time. I can just go to the critical moments here and check that we are indeed in the correct chapter. Right, so the other question is, what should I be farming here? Gives my voice a chance to rest. Oh, new things. New things to plant. Kidney beans. Not my favorite. but we'll harvest them all the same. All right, enough of horsing around here. Let's move on to submitting a guess with an HTML form and cookies. So we have the form here. It's going to hit named action, the guess action. Let's create that one. So the sibling page play.plus page.server.ts should have an exported actions object. Which should have a guess method, a synchronous method. This will mean, no, we don't return anything for now. This should be getting the form data. Request, and this in theory should be an array of items for words, like guessed words. Is get all like a real thing? No, we just get it. So let's console log it. With this. Cool. So let's call this selected words. Or it's like a group, like selected group as well of 4 words. So if we select like 4 of these, can I actually save this? Maybe not. Guess I didn't. The form, did I call it guess? I did. So where else do we have like a, it's not name, it's action. It's action. It always has been. You name the form action like this. And we have nothing there. Great. Which I think is because we put the name on the field set, but actually each input should have the same name. Right, or value. So the input should have the same value, and it's part of this field set. Let's see if that's going to work. I'm going to recap it. Nothing. Name here is words. All right, lemon, it says, because it's getting just the first one. Is get all a real thing? Should be. All right, here we go. So everything I've selected appears here. What have we done? In the UI, we have a field set of things that does nothing. Well, it does group things, and it's made to work with a legend element as well, which is cool. But our inputs, one input for each word we have, they all have the same name. So this key should be the same. And so long as they have the same name, they're going to submit an array of values. Everything I have selected is going to be submitted to the backend. So if I do orange, kiwi, elderberry, apple, banana, and fig, and submit, then on the backend, I get an array of 6 things. And one part is the SvelteKit thing, where I get the form data here from the request, and I get all the words from the form data, and then I can work with them. Notice that there is no client-side validation or server-side validation at the moment to tell me that I should only select 4. Well, it tells me create groups of 4, but it should be blocking me from creating 5, should be the max. Well, I'm at 3. This shouldn't be active. I shouldn't be able to submit the form. And the moment I'm at 4, I shouldn't be able to select another one without deselecting an existing one first. So that may be the thing we want to tackle. And then we'll see how we'll work with that. Like we have 4 selected words, we'll need a way with our game controller to be able to validate, like, is it part of a group? If not, is it like close enough, like one away to give that extra UI? If yes, then the UI should respond by grouping those things, those 4 words together. If not, there is a strike. We've made one mistake and we don't have any mistakes. And if it's only if it only were one word off, then we should also see a message saying that you were one away, because that's quite helpful. Right, so how do we do all of that? First, we plant some kidney beans. Then we plant some red onions. And then we parse data with Zod and Superforms, which we have shown in the past month of streams. I imagine we've shown it quite a lot. So let's do it again. After a quick sip of coffee. So from the existing things in the app is a login flow, and in here I just have the login with Google, Twitch, GitHub, and there are no inputs here, just buttons with values. So no form data submitted. I guess on this one I would have the email submitted, but that's not actually implemented. So there you go. So am I using Superforms elsewhere? In the login flow, I do use it to show a spinner if you're logging in with something else. But not really, I guess. Which means it's time for reading. We may be using the array proxy as well. But we'll see. Basic example with Zod, let's say. Just the get started one. Let's create our schema. So in the play route, we have a schema.ts, and in this one, we have the guess schema, which is, I guess, it just has words, an array of words. And I think it's like Z array of Z strings. And that's the only thing we need. Let's double check with Zod. Z array of Z string. Oh, I can do it the other way around as well. Sure. Export that. And Superforms wants us to go to the server, file, get all of these imports here. Don't think we need to sort here. And we can create the form using the supervalidate method with the guess schema that we've created. I guess in the example they lowercase it. So we'll do that. And then with Superforms, you always need to return the form data in the UI. You don't need to call it form, you can call it anything you want, but it's form in the examples, and we only have one form that submits data on this one. Hello, Andrea, how are you doing? Nice to catch you here. And that's it. The form will be empty for now, but I guess sometimes, does this one do anything? No. If you have selected some things, we don't care. We don't, and you refresh, we can reset it. Yeah, I'm good as well, Andrea. Thank you for asking. We could be setting cookies every time they click on something and submit the form every time, which is what the SvelteKit Wordle example is doing. But I think that's not something that people want. That's unnecessarily complex. So I imagine when you get to this page, you'll never have any words selected. But this means that you'll have the form in the UI. And then we are in the displaying the form situation. But should we make our own component for this? For so all of this, guess form, grid form, connections form, which is going to be all of these guys, which I guess is whole component actually. So do we need this level of interaction? Maybe, let's say yes. So let's paste everything but the main class. And I guess it's gonna get given the form data. And we can infer that with TypeScript. SatCN actually has a better example on this. But we have the social login form that we've made a few times. And we can type things like this. So this gets props. This is super validated and infirm from SvelteKit Superforms, and it's using the guess schema, I guess. Is it not a real thing? I would need to infer this. Login schema. Uppercase this. Now I remember. So this expects some data. The superform gets given data. The Zod line adapter gets given the schema. We can pass the enhance in the form. By using enhance, opening into client-side magic. And then, I guess this gets like a, this also gets a grid. But for now, it's an array of strings. We'll see if it's something else later. Question from Andrea. Did you ever try some functional languages like Elixir? Yes, I've tried Elixir. And let me know if you want like a demo in the future. The one I've tried it with is with the Phoenix framework, which is like Laravel for Elixir, or like Rails for Ruby, or Django for Python. It's a framework that makes it a bit easier to work with Elixir and create an app with Elixir, especially if you're a beginner like me. I do like it. It is one of those languages where the first time I see it, like, I kind of uh, feel my head rising temperature and letting off steam, but eventually it makes sense. So with Lisp languages, like with Clojure, for example, I had the same thing where I was staring at something even harder, and I could feel my brain frying, but eventually I got it. And it feels like an easier version of that. Haskell feels like a thing that no matter how much I stare at it, I just fry and give up. But yeah, super interesting. If you haven't tried the Phoenix framework, other people in the chat, give it a try. It's cool. One of its coolest features is how well it handles WebSockets. All of the benchmark demos always show off. It's like, oh, you know, 1 trillion connections. Everyone in the world is in this app voting, and it handles it smoothly. It's cool. It's cool for sure. And the plan today is for once in our streams to deploy to Fly.io, which famously, I think, is using Elixir for a lot of their stuff. And unlike Vercel, which is mostly for Node, even though you can use other runtimes as well, they don't have like a hero language. It's not like, oh, you have to use Elixir for Fly.io. You can use Node or Elixir or whatever else, like PHP, anything you want. Well, with Vercel, the hero is definitely Node and the Edge and all of those things. Right, so I would love to talk more about Phoenix. But now I need to figure out what I was trying to do here, which is just this thing, this form. Gets the words. We enhance the form, blah, 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 looks fine. And in here, we want to render the connections form, passing in the words from data. This is going to be something else. Did we call it words or grid? Probably grid. Passing in the grid, and also passing in the form data. So this is the confusing thing with superforms, like what is data, what is form, what is superform. That's a bit confusing to me, but hey. Right, so we have this connections form now, which the difference is it's client-side validated, client-side enhanced, so no reload. But what else? This does, we don't return the form, so it's flipping out. So on the backend now, let's look at the action section, posting the data. So we'll do it a bit differently now. And we can actually return whether it was correct or not. So that's quite interesting. We'll see what we'll do. Right, so the guess action is the one when you're handling. Instead of doing all of that, we can super validate using the Zod adapter. We'll do the same thing for the form. We don't need to console log it. We can fail here or return a message. This will always validate, right? But let's see. We should have access to the words again. and then we can return a message, which in my case always have a type of either success or error and a message. We may change this. But on the backend, we can pass in the request here. We should pass in the request object here. So this is the difference. This gets populated, I guess, from what is in the request event. Cool. So let's try that again. We should submit. And we get the words again. And we're not failing. And we're just returning success. I wonder why this wasn't reset. Sometimes I use Superforms and the form resets by default. Did I? Interesting. We're not actually using the data here. So let's also render the super debug helper thingy. If you haven't seen it before, SvelteKit Superforms has a handy super debug component. Which you can pass the data. I claim. Where was I doing all this? In wrong place. In this guy. This is not where I wanted. Forget this ever happened. In the connections form. All right, here we go. That's not what I expected. What do you give us per debug again? Do you give it data form? Do you give it the form? I guess not. The form is a store, and this is a form data. I guess. Satcn made me do this. So this has a form object, this thing. We should just call this superform, right? Superform. And this has a form inside it. Hello, Mike. Nice to see you here. It's been a while. Right, so now we can see we have the words array, which is not updated because we are clicking these things in the checkboxes and we are submitting them to the backend, but we're not actually connecting them to the form that Superform knows about on the front end. For that, we'll need to be binding some things. And I guess it's for that we'll need to use proxy, an array proxy specifically. So let's check this one. I haven't checked the array prox before. We'll use it today. kind of unique use case working with arrays. So this is going to be the words array. Is using Superforms has bootstrapped the use of kit submit action. I think Superforms is popular enough that most people don't just use enhance by themselves and then do the return apply action and all of this by themselves. So yeah, I'm not sure if we'll see it in the official docs of SvelteKit, but it's popular enough to say that it's superseded them. Right, so the path, I guess, is the name. All right, we get it again. We won't use it. Errors, I don't think we'll have for this UI. I guess there are a couple of ways to do this. You could be submitting, realistically, if you've submitted 4 items, you have submitted the form correctly. But your 4 items may not be the ones we expect because they're not part of the group, but you've still submitted the form correctly, so I wouldn't want to give you like an error message that you've done something naughty. So we should handle this a bit differently, probably. Anyway, this should be what we have in here, which means that we'll need to do something clever. This should be an array of everything that we've selected, which means that checked should be equal whether values includes So question from Mike, Superform has an is loading, which means can we bind sign effects to that? Skills the use of binary function use enhance. So Superforms gives you an enhance by itself to use with your form. So this is not the enhance that Svelte.js has as a helper method. It's the one that Superform gives you, which amongst other things updates this delayed store for you. And the way I use it very often, including the social login form and various places in apps that we've been making, you can see that I check whether something is delayed and then disable buttons or show loading spinners and that sort of thing. And I guess this is an example of here's the form stuff. It's like a few lines of code, and I don't need to do the old way of having some state of whether I'm loading, I'm not loading, am I submitting, am I idle, and then specifying here all these methods. So I think the moment you need a loading spinner, just use Superforms and use the delayed story here to show your loading UI. You can still do it the vanilla way, but I have found this handier. Things just sometimes take getting used to. Right, so we have this array of values that never gets updated, and that's because we should be saying, we should be checking whether an input is checked according to whether the values includes this given word, and on checked we should be doing something else because this would never be checked, maybe not. Not sure. Should this be defaulting to something? Don't think so. I think we're good. Right, so you can see that this kind of flips out sometimes. Anyway, I'm thinking that can I do like a non-change here? Is there like a non-change, a particular on-change for checkboxes? Right. So this one should have the current target, which is the checkbox. And then if it's checked Then we can say values gets reassigned to whatever it was plus the word. But if it's not checked, then values gets filtered to remove this word. So if it's not the current word, it stays. All right, does this do anything? Yeah, all right. So you can see that now Superforms also knows the things I've selected on the front end as well. Mike says, it seems Handabyte made Superforms confusing. The SvelteKit version is definitely a more advanced version. I do think that if we had started from the getting started of Superforms, then it'd be easier to move on to SvelteKit, which is also a reason to start by doing your own thing, because this introduces like 10 concepts that we should be more familiar with. But yeah, starting with just this example makes it make more sense faster than starting with a SvelteKit component like the calendar and others that already like throw a ton of concepts on you, or the form example in SvelteKit. Right, so I could say even here have a little check to say end values length less than 4, because you can only select 4. So now if I try to select another one, it shouldn't work, but it does. I guess this is visual, we'll be hiding this input anyway. We can see it's not getting added here. So that's by the by. As far as this is concerned, that's not checked. So we're good, we're fine. Should be fine. And the other thing is that the submit button, we can make it be disabled if we don't have 4 things selected. So now the submit button here, the moment we have 4, it becomes available to us, which is neat. It's what we wanted all along. Cool. So I guess we've done that. And let's make the UI better. Plant some stuff. It's great using reduced and hard looping assemble data, like doing some transformations. I love using reduce. People need to explicitly tell me, stop, Johnny, using reduce. I don't understand what you're doing. I love using it. It's my party trick on interviews. I use it all the time. Reduce can help you like do one loop instead of like 2 loops. If you do like filter and map, for example, you could just do one reduce. But the reality is that really gonna affect performance? Probably not. Maybe if you have like a super large set. But there are also some transpilers that figure out those things for you. So they may be able to see, oh, this person is doing a filter and then a map, and that can be changed to a reduce. And some compilers can actually change that into a reduce as well. So it's a party trick. It's cool. I love doing them. I think it looks much better, and maybe it's more performant, but in reality, it doesn't make a difference. Not really. So if I am working with people that absolutely hate seeing a reduce and they get confused, then, you know, with a heavy heart, I do go with the filter and map. Because the most important thing is that people are able to change the code faster and understand the code. If I'm working by myself, definitely reduce all the time. Not even a consideration. Reduce for days. So I'm giving my voice an opportunity to rest while planting these things. So Mike kindly says that Amazonian is, you see, it's the reduce trick. It works. Like just hearing that I can do a good reduce is like, oh, this guy knows what they're doing. But yeah, thank you very much. You're gonna make me red in the face like a red chili. It's very sweet. All right, so here we are. Let's style inspired by another, what a thing to say, by a front-end genius, Adam. Check out this video. It's quite nice. A lot of Adam's GUI challenges are really helpful, really awesome. And on this one, he goes over how to do an extremely accessible, as always, input group, checklist, taglist, picklist. There are a few ways to call it. But what I'm most interested in is this thing. So, because this, if you notice, kind of looks like this. So instead of showing a checkbox or a radio, we'll have this checkbox that actually looks like a tab, like a chip, that sort of UI. And we'll do it live because I have the CSS for this to work. Confirm your account recovery changes. This is not the time. This is not the time, GitHub. Right, so what they're doing should be similar to what we've done so far. You may notice that they have a field set with no name, because that'd be silly. They have a legend, a list of items select, which we do have, like select 4 things. And then they have a label for each of the inputs instead of a div. I guess we can do that. Ah, that's what we did before. Let's see. Yeah, nest things inside labels. I love doing that. And then they have the input itself, which they hide. Has a name and a value. It has a type checkbox, which we have as well. It doesn't need an ID anymore because it's within its label. So nice, less HTML. Then, oh, interesting. Like all of these are like strong tags, I guess. So you don't need to embolden them. And then it also has like an extra line, I guess, there. For the choose menu one, I think that's what we want. So again, on this one, interesting, they're doing a different thing. It's a choose main example. And for this one, they do have the label side by side as we did, right? Take it back. Take it all back. Who's the smart guy now? And just some classes, I guess. So it's still just a div. The label is here. I think that's it. Like the HTML is fine, but now we need to do the CSS for it. And I did do this crazy CSS, CSS, just to center align it. But I guess they have something different here. So Taglist, toggle, those are the things we want. Let's see what they have here. They're specifying max inline size. Interesting. And then they do stuff to the legend, and then they do things for the tag toggle. I guess that's where we come in. So I'll copy this, and yeah, here instead of just giving this all these classes, let's call this Taglist. Tag toggle. And with SvelteKit, we can open up a style tag. CSS lang, and say that this locally scoped class toggle will have a display grid. Box shadow, do we want it? Maybe. Grid area, I think that's something we cannot apply with Tailwind, so we'll definitely be doing it. And then it finds the label, and add some padding. Left and right, we'll see how we'll apply this. Background, cursors, all of these things we don't really care about. If there is the background is gonna change, sure. We don't really care about any of these, I guess. And for the input, it's making it disappear, but when it's checked, then it goes to its sibling label to actually change the background color. And the text color, sure. And when it's not checked, but it's focused, then it's giving it like a different color. All right. So interesting. Let's see how we can work with this. I think we can apply Tailwind classes here as much as we want. Do they have shadows? Not really. Guess we like shadows. The label can apply some padding. They're also using the inline ways, the inline and block directions instead of X and Y, which is good for accessibility. But can we do it here? with PS. Interesting. Anyway, it feels like for now we'll need to do the px way and py. Is it usually less? It's more up and down. Now the background. BT card. Right, here we go. What's happened here? And it also changes the cursor to pointer because lots of people like the Mickey Mouse cursor, the Mickey Mouse hand. Cursor pointer? I guess so. Rounded. Is that too rounded? It's okay. And yeah, we don't need a special class for dark mode. It's gonna look great. But it's not gonna it's not doing the stacking thing. Text center. Another way to center a div, I guess. Still looks fine. Bold or semi-bold? Let's say bold. All right, so the thing is, now the checkbox is not there anymore. Great. And when this is checked, we can change the background color. What do these guys do? They do like a contrast thing. Interestingly enough. And what is secondary even? Did we manage to make secondary look exactly the same? Maybe this is nicer. What can I tell you? Yeah, it looks different, I guess. We can play with the colors, we can create our own colors, but I think I will keep the primary one, because I like it more. Right, and I also want a prevent default surely, so that was the problem. Son says I love purple and green. Yes, it's true. It's true. Even my cert is kind of purple. Is there no prevent default in SvelteKit now? In new runes? In events? Prevent default. Oh no, I need to do event prevent default like we have been doing for 20 years. Sadly. All right, so now it works perfect. Guess not. Spoke too soon. Why is this? So this checked. Surely. Should this be bound to something? Because this changes, right? Can't bind this to this. So what's the deal there? And if I flip it, it starts like this with this checked value, but it doesn't update. So that's a bit of a problem. Like it still doesn't update this, but I'm not thrilled about it. But I'm not thrilled about it. So what do we do? So like instead of checked, use something else. Yeah, this does not indicate whether a checkbox is currently checked. So how do I block it? They're doing a prevent default there, but I don't think that's the solution. Does GitHub Copilot now? Something I don't. Ah, is it just on click? It should be on click, right? Maybe not. I think that's gonna work. So on click, we can change the value programmatically. Next checked is this. But it's not really that. If it's currently not checked and we have less than 4 items checked, then I update the values and say that this is true, it's now checked. Or else, now it's not checked. And maybe do like the real thing first. So let's see. That's not how you do it. If not event correct accurate checked. If the values includes the word, then it starts as checked. That feels fine. But here, UI doesn't get updated, which is fine. But we never make it there. So why is this claiming that it's checked? That I don't get. Because I just clicked it, I guess. Okay. So let that happen. If not, it becomes false. Ever work. We're getting the correct one. It's not quite how I expected it. So how do I update the checked value? Pandabytes has some things to work with inputs. Let's make this sort of thing easier, I guess. They were right all along. Indeterminate. Fun. Let's ask Copilot, maybe they know. If I don't prevent default, this checked state does update. But what else do they have here? I'm asking GitHub Copilot. So it's claiming we're doing this, but I'm not convinced. the problem with Copilot is that it assumes what I'm writing is correct, as it usually should. But now it's not, and I'm trying to find out what I should be doing. So what did I have for? Without messing with this. So this doesn't update anything. These things, it's already been checked. So it does work. But you can add the same one again. Because it's always checked, I guess. What's the deal with that? Why is this not removed? And also the UI is not updated. If I don't stop the prevent default, and this happens, which kinda works, like UI works, but it's not blocked, sadly. When would I want to prevent default? I guess here. The question by Mike, I rarely use AI. You feel ashamed using AI all the time, even solving data structures. What can I tell you? If AI was good enough where I could say make app for my startup, then I would use it. There is no shame in that. If it does a good job, then you should use good tools. I've mentioned before that I've gotten ages ago, but not that many years ago actually. Many engineers, many times I've gotten feedback from wanting to establish prettier and run code bases through prettier. Because some people are kind of stuck in the past and they're like, oh, I like raising PRs to say that this should be on the next line or not. But I think it's a useless skill. It's something that a computer will do better every time, 100% of the time. And then you can spend your time in more interesting problems. So AI very often may introduce a bug or something at this stage that you won't be expecting, and then you will lose time. But at some point, it will be good enough that it will be able to solve your problems faster, these sorts of problems faster. Do the scaffold, and then you re-edit, you revise. And then you can spend your time doing better things like data architecture or solving the bigger problems there, like the unique points of your startup. So yeah, if it's good, why not use it? That's what it comes down to. I do think current LLMs do make things up quite a lot, so just be careful. Sanity check the output, and if that takes you more time than writing from scratch, that's I guess that's why I don't use it that much. Even though I did start this stream talking about V0, 85% AI code. If it works, it works. What can I say? Vercel, with Vercel zip, they opened by demoing V0, which creates React components. You describe the app that you want to build and it creates React components for you that you can even add to your app using a cool CLI tool. And if they're good, why not start from there? So, you know, for scaffolding and common use cases like a dashboard and stuff, I do think you can get out of this. But something like this that needs like a bit more whimsy, maybe you want to have a look at it by yourself. But again, like me spending this much time like debugging this, is this the best use of my time? Yes, because I'm teaching as well. But maybe for you, maybe not. Maybe it wouldn't have been a great use of your time. Anyway, so here, if it's currently tagged, this works correct, but when it comes to blocking up to 4, which is the thing we want to change. If values length is less than 4, then I want to do this, and that's it. Else, maybe I just want to prevent default and move on with my life. Maybe that's the thing. Oh, we got there. All right, that's when we want to prevent default. We want default behavior, obviously, most of the time. But the one thing that I don't want to do is allow people to add like a fifth thing to select. So that's where we want to prevent default. All right, we got it. Finally, we got it. Not too bad. And I guess this should be on click, not on change, because then that's already happened. Maybe that's the same. Maybe, yeah, all right. So on change, it's already changed, so it's too late. I think that's why we started by doing something like this, but it didn't work because we had it in a non-change handler. But on change, it's already happened and it's too late. On click is when we want to act here. Cool. All right. We got there. What else do we want here? Just looking around. I think we don't need super debug anymore. I think we've successfully solved this. And oh, we don't use the form, we just use this proxy. Interesting. And what else? When it's not checked and we focus, then it wants to do something to this, I guess. So what do we want to do? Apply filter like lightness. Element has something for this. Brighten. Oh, your hardest task was the same concept as Tower of Hanoi. That's an amazing and classic example. If other viewers don't know, this is when you have like 3 pillars and you're supposed to stack little floors on top of one another, or donuts or something like that. But you can only stack the smaller one on bigger ones. So it's quite fun. Had a friend at the funding circle that created a great demo on this. The state must be maintained no matter what happens. So we will be doing something that could be useful to you today, because after you submit the guess, we'll want you to not be able to move out of that. We'll want to know that you've successfully grouped some words together, or that you've made a mistake. So that you may find useful, and we will be using cookies instead of local storage for that, so not client side. All right, so you can see that when I hover, it kinda gets a bit more bright. Not a real thing, not pseudo classes. Pseudo classes not allowed. Guess so. Yeah, let's do 150. What's the worst that can happen? Too bright. AI made you solve it. Oh no. So there, I would say that you're cheating. So AI would be able to come up with a great solution, because I'm sure that it has tons of examples of this being implemented. And But the idea of doing this challenge is for you to think for yourself how you would do it. So seeing the implementation and then trying to re-implement, then that's fine, but just copy paste in the AI code. I don't think you have gotten much from that, so I would suggest trying again. If it's not like your idea you're trying to get to life, it's like an exercise. So a classic test-driven development exercise is implementing fizzbuzz. Like when it's an even number, then return fizz, but if it's not, then return fizzbuzz, or if it's divided by 5, then return something like that. Of course, you can paste the spec in a chatbot in ChatGPT or wherever, and it will give you the perfect code and the perfect tests for it, but that's not the point. The point is to get through the motions yourself there, which if you want to learn is good. So if your ticket was deliver the Tower of Hanoi, the business value is you need to deliver this, then you could use AI quite a lot and you'd get a perfectly working Tower of Hanoi. But if the business value is that we want you to learn a bit more, then you should try by yourself to see how you could work it out. And the problem with AI is that you can't like interact with it and let it guide you and, you know, give you a hint, like I'm a bit stuck here, what should I do next? It's easier for it to just give you the solution. Reduce, anything can be solved with a good reduce. So what am I thinking here? I'm thinking the thing I don't like is that it becomes super white when I hover, which is not a real use case. Most people will be playing on their phones anyway. So why am I that worried about it? I don't know. And yeah, on dark mode, looks great. So maybe it's time to move on to correct group UI. And all of this is in the tank toggle. Anything else we may need? Probably not. This could be its own component. And then I guess it gets given whether it's checked or not. Modern, should this be its own component? Probably not. It would need access to this too. It's fine. It's fine. Let's move on. All right, so we've selected 4. Like we'll see what happens when it's like a super big word eventually. But when we submit, our backend gets these words. Later, please. And now we want to tell the front end this was actually good. Let's group them together. So this is a solved group, for example. So that's what we want to happen. So yeah, let's do that. Ooh, 2 hours in already. Unfortunately, my back is quite sore today. Has been this week, or else I'd be confident that we'd be going for ages and ages in this fun problem. So we'll see. I'll do my best. We're at the time of starting to solve things, so that's good. We may introduce some Vitest tests as well. All right, so first things first, let's input some correct words here. So game controller. Oh no, I may ask to comment case this later. Trump. It says. Is model view controller a bad approach for SvelteKit? Not really. I do think model view controller is made for different languages. Like PHP with Laravel, Rails, the old school ones. With especially React, we have the component-based approach, and especially with server components now, I would say, where the responsibility of each part of the UI is broken down further. It's not this is the model and this is the UI and this is how this behaves. Like we've seen that this form has logic about how this behaves as well. And we do have a different file that says that the schema of this form is this, but I wouldn't say it can be applied here. I think when working with any meta framework, trying to adhere to the model view controller model, it would just cause you more problems. At the very least, the view and the controller, let's say, are lumped together in a component. All right, so let's see. Can AI lowercase this? Did you do it correctly? Great. All right, so we have these words, and now we need to validate. Like we have 4 words from the UI, and we want to validate, is it a valid group? And at some point, our game controller should know which groups these words are in. So would each of these, maybe not. There are a couple options. One of them is that I have like groups, and each group has a label or a name, and each group has words, which is an array of words, and I have 4 of those. That's what I'm thinking. Or each individual word has a group it belongs to and a value. And what would be better? Like if a group is discovered, because this should return the grid, and it should return first a solved group as well. So maybe the group's approach doesn't make sense. Or maybe it does. No, I think the order of the words is important. So I think I'll go with the other approach. With each of the word, each word. Maybe you can have this on the backend, I guess. let's say we do have groups. And which are like these. Not group 1 and group 2. Oh well. Not the end of the word. Need to copy better. Alright, so what are the groups? 1, 2, 3, 4. Just lowercase the names. All right, so when I get the grid, then maybe I could get like either an array or the rest of the words. Maybe that could be fun. Would that be fun? Maybe. Yes. Submit guess, and then you get 4 words, and then what happens? So that's the question. And maybe the answer is you return whether it's a good guess or not, or and then you return the new grid. I think that's true. And then I guess each one of the groups could have like a it's valid. Oh, maybe not. We'll see. This could be a good point to Vitest. So let's get there. Here we go. So Vitest time, we do have a simple Vitest test, do we? Yeah, this one, which we don't need anymore. Have a game controller test. And maybe we can initialize the game controller with like the groups, so we're better in control of the test environment. We don't need to do anything else. We can say, all right, this is how I want you to test things. So let's say we create it like this. And this is an array of those. Now we can say these groups is the given groups. And then when you get the grid, let's reduce. So this is going to be a string array in the end for now. And we'll have the accumulator, and we'll have the words. And then let's just push the words in there and return the accumulator. Ugh, almost. Is that what it's called? Words? Yeah. Vitest is flipping out for some reason. These things always troll me and make me think I made a mistake, like some VS Code auto imports at the top. I've learned to look for them though. Right, so things look the same, but we've refactored a little bit. What do we want from our thing? Right, it returns whether a given array of words is a valid group. And let's say here we can say game controller is this, bring in the game controller, and let's say hardcoded test groups. Let's say that the test groups are the same as the sample groups. I mean, since this will not exist, we'll be getting this from a database at some point. And let's say that I expect if my guesses are, well, I guess those two. Those four. Game controller submit guesses. I expect this to return. That is true. It's correct. Is that a real thing? No? Yes, there is a to be truthy, but we can do to be true. All right, so it is test time. Unit. It returns true. How? That's how. All right, so it belongs to the same group. And with hard-coded solution here, how can we break this test? Well, we could say it returns false. Does not belong to the same group. So if we had like T's in there, then that should return false. And that indeed fails. Good. So now we're forced to do like an actual implementation here and figure out whether the given words do belong to the same group. So there are a couple of ways to do this, I suppose. And this is the one I was thinking of. Maybe not. So it's trying to find the group where its group words, every one of them is this. That's one way to do it. I was thinking that I could also just find the one that the first group belongs to, because then, like, sometimes this will loop harder or more, but it's just like 16 items, like the 4 items with arrays of 4 items each, so it's not going to be the worst loop in the world anyway. And therefore, the other way I was thinking is find the group that the first given word belongs to. And then you can check that every word belongs to that group you found. So you just pick the first one. This has to belong to a group, but even if it doesn't, it's going to fail here. And then you check, well, does every word belong to this group? Maybe that's more readable, who knows. But I can say it's correct. It's this. And indeed, that seems to have worked. So we have a way to validate whether this was a correct yes or not. And then that's the question. Like maybe we want the applied grid. This we probably want to mutate the grid and actually group some things together. So maybe in the test. The question is, it returns the grid unaffected. But we also have the situation where we want to check whether we are 3 out of 4 in the same group. So we may extend this. This is kind of fun. So we can kind of do the same thing again. And let's say initial grid is this. And then this grid should equal that grid. Which should be correct, but it groups correct results together. So that may be kind of weird. Add on the initial grid. And we can do it like this, I guess, here. And what am I expecting here? I'm expecting so this could be a group that has words. Let's do another one. Some things to crack. So maybe the first item is the group now that has all the words. And maybe the group has a color. I don't know. We'll find out. But then we just have the guesses. The remaining guesses. So the controversial thing about this is that I'm now mixing this array. This array doesn't have the same type of item every time. It can have either an array or an object that has an array inside, which is funky. And yeah, instead of a color, maybe it has like a difficulty here, and then we assign each difficulty its own color. Because we know I love purple. Anyway, so this will fail. That's not what we got back. So when we submit the guess, if it is correct, then we want the next grid to be something else. And we can insert this group first, or we can mutate the existing groups. Maybe it can have like a discovered order. Hello Zeba, how are you doing? Yes, we're doing connections by the New York Times, but we're doing it with SvelteKit. And the idea is that eventually we'll be adding the extra functionality to create your own connection puzzle instead of waiting every day for Wina to torture us with another connection. Although we did manage to get it first time, no mistakes today live, which rarely happens for me, but there are like quite a few fun elements here, so I figured we should clean things up for a while. I don't know how long we'll go for today, but we are 2.5 hours in, quite nicely. And now I'm thinking, all right, you've made a correct guess, you should mutate the grid. What should we be doing? And of course now it's easy because this is, we're not mixing up the words just yet. I guess the first time we construct this, we're probably gonna have a reference to the grid. Probably. It gets given the groups, but then it creates its own grid, I would say. Are there other fun groups? So should each group have discovered, like is discovered? Maybe the answer is yes. But it could also have discovered order. In which case, we could also be keeping tab of how many you've guessed and how many mistakes you've made. Which would be good. So yeah, these could have is discovered, and we could immediately mutate them. They could all have like an is discovered false, I guess, or maybe not defined. Yeah, but that's fine. Why am I doing this? Because here, if is correct, then group is discovered becomes true. If I check like this, will it know? Yeah, TypeScript will know better. But also, I want to affect the grid. I want to put this group in a different place. What's the index of this one? I want to return it first now if I change it like that. That's the thing. That's my reasoning. I guess immediately we can do like mistakes plus. We do need to do the one-off situation as well. So there are quite a few things to do. Let's see. Right. We need to mutate the grid now. And I'm thinking that this grid, these groups, I don't want to sort them. But I do want to put this group first, is the thing. I want to put this group first and then the other groups. So they do like a silly filter here, maybe. Yeah, it doesn't really matter. We'll be playing animations and stuff. It's fine. Oh, did it again. All right. So I think the thing now is that for the grid, which maybe I create immediately. It's an array of strings or connections group. And then let's say that this grid is like this to begin with. I think that should work, but this one doesn't quite like it. there another way to specify this? Probably not. This is what I try to do, but it doesn't quite like it. Oh, it's because I wasn't typing it like a mug. I see. So even the thing I had before was correct. Just not to type it, right? Maybe not. No, it is correct. Yeah, it's a real thing. I can type it like this. Good. So this is when you want to assign. This is when you want to do a TypeScript type. That was my problem. Whoops. Right. And will this be like a normal getter, I guess? I don't even know what getters look like. Is this transport public variable? I guess so. But maybe I don't want it to be public. Maybe that's my problem. All right. Anyway, now, does this work? So in the server, I'm thinking we should have the game controller again. And then we could have the correct grid, but we need to persist this somewhere. And we'll be persisting it in cookies, I suppose. Yeah, so let's see how that looks like. We could be return an error here. It won't do a 404 or something. And we won't be showing a toast. So is this always defined? Yes. we won't be using any of these things. But let's have a look. Select 4 things. Submit. Yeah, should have locked these. Oh, sorry. What did I receive? That's an array again. Oh, didn't finish implementing. So I'm mutating the groups, but that's not exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to change the grid, right? So yeah, I may need to rethink this. Here, this may fix it. Oh, I don't want these to be arrays, actually. With items. Right, but still, we're not getting the object first. Ah, of course. So we can check is discovered here. Reuse it. Great. Here too. All right, cool. Did it find the other one? We are correct. We are here. We're putting the group first, the group that we found first, and then the other groups should be fine. But what's happened here, if it is discovered, we push the group, which it should be first. Or else we push its words and we always return the accumulator. But it doesn't quite work because it's receiving the wrong one. Am I passing in the wrong guesses? Could be. Yeah. I want my guesses to be these. Come on, Johnny, get it together. Well, and then guess this. I want this to become first, and then that's it. Is the problem is my older test discovering the older grid? I think so. So here, if we spread them, will that be fine? It's the mutation that gets us. It should still have a reference to the same object, unfortunately, so that's not great. That's not great at all. We could stop messing with mutation, I guess. That's a bit boring. Can I return new objects every time? Do these 4 times and see what happens? Alright, so don't affecting the given object anymore. We had mutation problems. This should be cleaned up. I think I'll take a break to clean things up for sure. But anyway, the idea is that somehow we want to persist that you've either made a guess or well, you've made a guess, successful or unsuccessful, and maybe we can keep track of mistakes remaining. And it starts as 4. Let's have a quick look at that. We'll see how we'll render this UI in the future. But now, I guess the main thing is that we want to start this, or we want some cookies to tell us what guesses we've made, or what our grid looks like. Even if we had the shuffle functionality and we refresh, we want to stay with the shuffled grid. So that's something to note. So I guess we want to serialize all of this. The amount of mistakes how many discoveries you've made, the grid itself, and the groups. Or yeah, the grid itself would work. Just to keep the groups hidden. So just as a thing to note here, New York Times, even before they ask you if you want cookies or don't want cookies, they've already added cookies on you, including the connection thing. And they have like the saved board, I guess. And they have how many groups you found. This is the thing they've done. So that's the idea. It's kind of interesting. Let's see how they keep their state. So they have all of these like without me saying I don't want cookies. I guess they are like strictly necessary cookies, they claim, including the day of test. Unlikely, come on. Have you ever played before? Sure. So they have the saved board, and they do keep it as an array of arrays, sensibly. This is what Son said all along in the start. And they do have the attempts remaining here. And the history, I don't know what that is. But, yeah, so each item has this. Each item has the group it's associated with in it. Which maybe is what we want to do to refactor into. Not sure. Maybe we'll leave that for another time. Yeah, maybe we'll leave this episode to be UI, and on the next one we do the game controller logic. Not sure. It feels like that's what we'll need to do, given my back as well. Yeah, but yeah, this may be it. Just to show what the idea will be for the next time is that no matter what, whether you were correct or not, we will be getting the cookies helper object from the action and setting some cookies. So we could be setting the game state or connections controller, or whatever you want to call it here. And then we'll be stringifying maybe the game controller, maybe something, and persisting that forever. And then when we're loading the page, we'll be reading those cookies and initializing the game controller based on those cookies, so it will know. So that's the basic idea. But I think for today, we'll call it. And recover for the next one. We may come back maybe Saturday or Sunday. We'll definitely come back to this one. Although, again, we may do like a bit of a break to show the AI helpers that Vercel has created. We'll see. Let me know, as always, in the Discord and the comments and wherever you would like. You can reach out to me in socials as well, various social forums, what you'd like to see next. The plan would be to actually move on to the game logic. So you submit and you start seeing some cool UI bouncing around saying, oh yeah, this was correct or this wasn't correct, and you get to play again. And then we transition into user accounts, where you can create your own connections and share with your friends, which I think would be a fun project. All right, until then, I think this is going to be it for this episode of Live Coding and Chill. The big victory today, I guess we did do some cool UI stuff. The big victory is managing to do this with no mistakes, which rarely happens for me. Thanks everyone for sticking around, especially the people in the chat. And I will catch you all soon. Bye.